Welcome to another episode of Systematic Geekology. This is a space where we seek to create and cultivate healthy conversations between those things we geek out on and the philosophical and theological questions that often arise out of our fandoms. Like, what does it mean to be human? What makes a hero? What makes a villain? How do the stories and narratives we geek out on shape how we live in the world? We are your priest to the geeks. We aren't all ordained, but we see ourselves as mediators at the intersection of geek culture and going deeper in our faith. We don't always have to agree, but we do respect each other, and we see everyone as a beloved child of God. Everyone geeks out on something, so come geek out with us and enjoy the show.
You're listening to an Anazao Ministries podcast.
Can we look up the flawed heroes? We're going to be asking this question and a lot more in today's episode of Systematic Geekology. We are the Priest of the Geeks. I'm your host, Christian Ashley, joined by, of course, the greatest host not named TJ Blackwell, Elizabeth Pangalangan-Clyde. How's it going, Pang?
It's going pretty well. A little sleepy, but doing good.
Yeah, I get that. This week's rough, but we're going to get through it, and we're going to succeed. We're going to even have fun tonight.
I'm going to crush it.
Yeah, because we're discussing My Hero Academia, continuing on through the series. If you're interested in some earlier episodes, if somehow your first episode listeners talk about it, we'd have links down below for you guys to check out in the description. But today we'll be covering the Pro Hero arc and the joint training arc. But before we head that way, Pang, what have you been geeking out on?
I don't know. I haven't decided if I love it or not, but I've been watching Shikimori's Not Just a Cutie. So it's pretty much, I know this is a romance anime, shocker. So pretty much a super cute girl, but like she's kind of like the male lead in the relationship, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
she's like, she has a cute
Way
facade.
too good for the guy.
Oh, absolutely. And the guy's like a complete klutz. So he's about to like get run over and she like pulls him over and does like the big, like, wall slam thing. Like, what am I going to do with you? Type deal. So it's kind of, I guess, refreshing in a different way, but I just don't know because I want to be the one to swoon. You know what I mean? I don't want to make others swoon. I want to swoon. So we'll see. But
Yeah,
I've only seen 3 episodes, so it could get better. It could get worse.
one of the worst male MCs we've had in quite some time. I'll say that. But I hope you enjoy it.
Me too. We'll see.
Me, on the other hand, there's only like almost 40 some chapters out of Centuria. It's a newer manga that's released on Shonen Jump's app and Manga Plus. You want to check that out. Basically, guy who lived as a slave, ends up on a ship and befriends a woman who's about to have a kid and saves the kid's life as the ship goes down, and is then blessed with power by this goddess of the sea kind of thing, but also does this whole prophecy about how the kid is going to grow up being like the evil big bad, and like the discussion of like, should he raise the kid well and all this. It's a lot of good fun, a lot of great action, a lot of heartbreak too. But
we hate the heartbreak.
Oh yes, but you know what? It's really good. But you know what else is good? My Hero Academia, which we're doing 2 arcs today. And Pang, you want to unpack what happens in a Pro Hero and joint training arc with me?
Okay, remind me because it has been a little bit. So once you start it, and then I can like run with it.
That's fine. So after the events of last time, we've got Class 1A kind of discussing, All Might's lost his power, who's going to be the new number 1 hero. And then we go to actually see that happen where they had like this big billboard chart kind of event where they start listing down the heroes, and we'll go over them individually in a second. But at the end, the number 1 hero is decided, and it is Endeavor. Todoroki's dad.
Ew.
And yeah. And all the fun baggage that comes with that.
Yeah, baggage.
We've seen him earlier, but now we get a little bit more of Hawks as well, who has been made the number 2 hero and kind of is trying to prop Endeavor up. And there's this whole moment of the both of them just like, why do you care? And Hawks kind of goes into a little bit of his ideology of how he wants heroes to just have an easy time, and he sees a lot in Endeavor and wants to see him succeed. And it goes with the both of them end up fighting this brand new Nomu that shows up on the scene, something that
Mhm.
would have caused All Might to get a little bit of a problem, but Endeavor's not as strong as All Might. So
Mhm.
now they're struggling against him, and eventually they are able to take it down, while at the same time we learn a little bit more about Endeavor's history with his family, of his, and we'll get to this later on as well, his spousal and child abuse that he did, but also him wondering, can I be a new man? Do I deserve like anything that's happened so far?
Yeah, this is the turning point. I remember this. And then we question like where Hawks falls, because even Endeavor was like, it's very convenient. The number one and number two hero are like hanging out, having a meeting, and then the Nomu out of nowhere comes. And we really see Endeavor proving himself. Like, does he have what it takes to be the number one hero? So I think this is a fun shift we see. So he feels the weight for the first time of being the number one hero. And because I mean, when he first got it, he felt like he didn't earn it because All Might retired. He will never get the chance to be All Might.
Yeah, it's always going to be an asterisk right next to his number one hero, title in his eyes, because he never like earned it. It's like by proxy, you're number one. Sorry.
Right.
Then
Consolation, number one hero.
At the end of this arc, we have in flashback, it's revealed, it's kind of shown through All for Ones for a bit, until eventually we learn that Izuku is actually the one seeing his origin story. And he also has One for All kind of activate, kind of it's acting all weird and he doesn't know why, which leads up to the joint training arc. Do you want to take that away, or you need more refreshing for that too?
I love this one because it's so pretty much we got to see Class 1B at the sports festival. And so we got to see the rivalry. Wow. There. We're doing great. English is my first and only language, but whatever. And so we just get to see a little bit more of them. And then remind me, is this where we get to see the guy shows back up, right? The brainwashing guy?
Oh gosh, what is his name? Shota? What is his name?
That's not his name.
No, Hintoshi something.
So pretty much
Shinso.
Shinsu, yeah. So we see him in the fighting episode, the sports day episode, where if you answer a question, he gets to brainwash you. And he was actually in the other classes. He didn't get to make the hero classes. So very exciting. We see that he actually got to join class 1B after the sports festival, and he got to level up quite a bit, where he now, through a special gear, gets to throw his voice to make him sound like other people. And so you are naturally more inclined to answer a teammate, and your guard is like less, like it's lowered because of it. So he actually gets to fight alongside Team A, Class A, and then Class B to show off his skills. So pretty much it's pretty much a big old game of cat and mouse is what's happening between the two classes, and this is a great refresher of everyone's and their quirks. So I really like the Ivy lady in this team training arc.
Yeah, we have I think 5 rounds, and about I think it's 4-on-4. Our different teams here. We get some nice moments for each of them. Like Shinto starts off on Class 1A side, then he's going to end up against with Class 1B against 1A. We get some nice moments for Bakugo here. He declares he's going to have a flawless victory. He gets exactly what he wants and completely annihilates 1B. We have some nice moments. Todoroki kind of losing a fight, Momo not going as well, and Tokoyami kind of getting attacked in a very brutal fashion by the Mushroom Girl in 1B.
But you kind of see, like, because at this point, 1A, they did so much real life experience, it kind of got a little cocky. And so they have not been in the classroom. They've been using their skills, but they have not been honing their skills. And so we actually see the gap between 1A and 1B close quite drastically. And so I love the fact that class 1A kind of got a little piece of humble pie in this training arc. because it just shows that even though you might be on the B team, like you can still work hard and not give up, because either at that point, kind of like Endeavor, when you're number 2, either you can give up being in number 1 spot or you can keep striving. And so Class B kept on striving, which is really good.
Yeah, it gives some nice character moments here. Like it drags on a little bit, and we'll talk about that later on too. But for right now, it finally culminates in the last match where it's Izuku, Ochako, Mineta, and Mina versus the other Class B, which has Monoma, who has a quirk, Phantom Thief, where he can copy someone else's quirk for like 5 minutes, and Shinso is on the other side too. So it's kind of a rematch for what happened in the sports tournament earlier on. But in the midst of it is when Izuku Deku tries to use his One for All abilities, but something weird starts happening. And there's these like black and green tendrils that come out of his body, and he doesn't know what's going on until he realizes an earlier user of One for All, that is his quirk. And he is attempting to use that quirk without even realizing it. And this means that a guy who was formerly quirkless, thought he had just the One for All that came from All Might, now has 7 other quirks at his disposal. And a huge revelation for this series. Your mileage may vary on how it actually turns out. They actually end up winning just barely the fight. And Class 1A wins overall. And Shinso is going to be brought up anyways to become one of their classmates. And I think that's it for as far as like big stuff in the arcs. I'm sure there's more. But what do you think so far?
I remember when Deku got another power, I kind of was like, is this going to be one of those scenarios where he's now going to be unstoppable like Goku and it's just going to be lame? You know what I mean? Like,
that
is he just
fear.
now? Yeah. Like, is he now just going to be unstoppable because no one can, he's unlimited quirks? Because we know through, previous that there's multiple wielders of One for All. So if he's just, you're kind of like just speculating. Are you just going to go down the list and get them all? So now this isn't going to be fun anymore. So I don't want to like go too far in and do spoilers in case someone crazy enough has been listening to our episodes but not watching along. I'm sure you're out there. So kudos to you. You're kind of weird, but it's just crazy. So at this point, I actually started losing interest in the anime a little bit. So even now, like I have not caught up to the one because this was the turning point. I'm kind of like, I'm still watching it. I'm still enjoying it, but it's more like I can wait now. So
It's more of a chore.
Correct. And so I'll probably wait for the anime it's about to finish and then binge it all when it's all English dub, since I'm just so busy.
No, that's fair. I get it. Yeah, this is why I was really glad I was reading the manga and just going through. Yeah, it was still a slog, but I could just read a chapter in a couple of minutes and then move on with my life.
Right. Yeah. Dedicating full episodes. And then even with the training arc, it kind of felt like the joint training, which is fine. And I appreciate the overview of all the quirks, but it's like, okay, here we go again. So it's getting a little boring at this point, but I'm always at the notion, if you're truly a fan, which I am, you're going to stick with it.
Yeah. So do you have a favorite character in these arcs? Could be both of the arcs or just in general?
I think the green person, she's not my favorite, but she makes me laugh because she just praised the Buddha. And it's like a cliche. No,
she's actually a Christian.
Christian. So she's just like super like funny with it though.
Maria, I think it's a hero name, taking that from Mary. I think her actual name is like Inazaki or something like that.
So she just makes me laugh. And then I think probably Sensho is probably my favorite character in this arc just because he didn't give up. And then you see that he's using the bandages that Eraserhead uses. So I think he has the most character development. I think Hawk is really fun. I like him more down the road. I didn't love him in this season.
Yeah.
Because we're really just getting introduced to him. So like he kind of just feels pompous at the moment.
That's totally fair. Yeah, for me, controversial pick, I'm choosing Endeavor. And I know especially on the American side of things, people hated what Horikoshi was trying to do with Endeavor. Like as in actually sending him death threats. how dare you try and redeem, a spousal and child abuser, and we'll get to that in a moment. But I really appreciate a man who can look at himself and say, "Oh, I'm the villain. I need to not be the villain. How do I stop that? How do I be better?"
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, he really had to step up.
Yeah.
But yeah, we talked about this one in our very first episode when we did the big overall My Hero overview with his atonement and if he's deserving of atonement. But I mean, I don't hate Endeavor anymore. I mean, like you can definitely, like, you can disagree something is wrong, but also I feel like everyone can be redeemed to some point in time. And he's like, we see it more in the future seasons, but I think they did well with his change.
Yeah. I really appreciate him like leaving his house behind and like doing his own thing as well. To be like, okay, I can't reconcile with you all next. I'm going to ask you to forgive me, but if you say no, like I get it, like I don't deserve it. So yeah, more to discuss later on. But as well, do you have any characters, favorites that are kind of like introduced in this arc?
Who's been introduced besides Hawk?
A lot of our new,
like the pro heroes that was introduced.
Yeah, are kind of introduced. Like Mirko, this is her first introduction, I think.
The bunny one is the first introduction, right?
Yeah, she's one of them. You've got like Wash and
that washing machine one is wild.
So I'm guessing you're going to pick Hawks then for your favorite out of that round.
I guess so. Yeah, I mean he can fly me away if we're gonna choose one. Like he's pretty swap. If I was in high school, I would have a crush on him.
I can't blame you.
Yeah, I mean, 32-year-old Liz, nah. But like high school Liz, I could see it happening.
I've moved past you. I've matured. I don't need you anymore. Yeah. I'm also going to pick Hawks on this one. Just like the way he just interacts with other heroes and the press and the public, and especially with Endeavor, I really appreciated someone like him who's like, look, like our job is stressful. It sucks. Wouldn't it be better if there was like a way where we didn't have to stress out as much? We could have a system where it wasn't just one hero taking care of everything, but we all kind of worked together and made things easy for everyone. And then, he continues to grow from here, but like starting off right here, it's a solid beginning for him as a character.
Yes. And it's fun. I feel like this is kind of, these two arcs are like the placeholder pivot arc, because right after this, it was kind of boring, but then it picks back up. So it's kind of like that, like we finally reached the top of the hill and now we can just go straight to the finish line.
Yeah. There's plenty to go from here as well. Like, right now, do you have a favorite moment or anything from these moments, from these arcs?
Probably Endeavor, like change of heart would probably be my favorite moment.
Yeah,
just because I love Todoroki. Burn. Yeah, so you gotta love his family.
Yeah, it's a messed up family, the Todorokis, but they provide some great entertainment and some great things to come of like discussing them. So yeah, perfect there. Other than that, I'm going to choose Bakugo's fight in the mock battles, where he's just like, look, we're going to win. And not only are we going to win, we're going to win flawlessly. And then the Bakugo of chapter 1 doesn't do what the Bakugo of episode whatever, or chapter whatever we're at right now does. And he gets people to believe in him. He knows what everyone's capable of, trusts in other people to get stuff done. And then gets the job done like easily, like because they like set up Setsuna, the chick who can move her bodies in different ways like a lizard. Can cut her body off and regenerate kind of like a lizard, and then move them elsewhere, which lizards cannot do. It's kind of set up as like this really smart tactical person who could be like Bakugo's equal maybe, and he's like, no, I'd make you look like a fool. Lizardi, I think, is their hero name.
Yeah, I remember like. What stuck out to me was the mushroom scene too, like just the spores and whatnot. Like she was just kind of creepy. Really, whenever it's like these long drawn out like not fight scenes, but battle just to reintroduce a quirk. Like I said earlier, I kind of zone out. So like that's usually fair. When it's English dub, I'm cooking or something like that. Like it doesn't draw me in.
Might as well go with fights too. So we brought them up. Like that's a great one. But I mean, the prominent experiment at the end, is pretty dang solid. He has to trust Hawks in order to get stuff done, to actually take down that Nomu. Endeavor does.
Yeah, no, that was
Just a-
probably one of the best fights in all of My Hero is Endeavor and Nomu's fight. Just because at this point, All Might just fell. So you kind of were... English is so hard right now. Just speaking is hard. But we were kind of at the edge of our seats because we didn't know what was going to happen with Endeavor. We didn't know if he was going to get beat unconscious. We didn't know if he was going to win. We didn't know if he might die. And just like kind of that moment of him feeling the weight of being the number one hero and protecting the people. And we actually get to see like he wants to actually protect people. He doesn't just want, because at the end of the day, why do you want to be number one? Do you want it for fame? Like, and we kind of get to see like, oh, he wants to protect people. He wants to be the best, like for himself, if you will, not just because he doesn't care about the press or the fame or anything like that. He just he wanted to best his rival. So did he get a little too, crazy about it in a toxic way? Yes. But it wasn't like, look at me, I want to be the best and be worshipped. It was just, I want to beat my rival.
Yeah, because there's a lot riding on that scene, like you mentioned. Like All Might's gone. Like, yeah, he can still Hulk out for like a little bit, but like he's not the number one hero anymore. So the symbol of peace is gone. Who's going to step up to the plate? And now we've got the perfect opportunity where Hawks and Endeavor working together can make the people believe that the heroes are still there and still doing their jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Do you have like a favorite quirk that was introduced in this arc? Most of those are going to be probably from the 1B side of things, because we knew who they were. We kind of knew what they could do, but like we actually get to see them this time around.
I would say what stuck out at me, just not beating a dead horse, is like, I think it's crazy that Hawks is the number 2 hero, but his quirk is not very impressive.
No, it's
at the end of the day, his quirks are he has feathers on his backs and wings for him, and he can control the feathers, and that's it. So it's not impressive at all compared to some of these other quirks. So that's what kind of stuck out to me. I'm like, how'd you get number 2?
Yeah, I mean, for people out there, Hawks is kind of like a mixture of, Angel and then a little bit of when he's transformed into Archangel from X-Men. In his abilities, like when he's Archangel, he's a little harder. Got the metallic wings. Hawks doesn't have that, but his wings the feathers can actually shoot out, kind of similar to what Archangel can do. So frame of reference for anyone who isn't watching or reading this series, and welcome to the episode. Love to have you here.
Right.
Yeah, but that's a solid one, because you go with like, he shouldn't be in the top 10.
No, he shouldn't be number 2.
100.
Okay, maybe I will say top 100 because it's all about strategy. But like to be the second one when you have all these other like heroes, that's just doesn't make sense. But they should have given him a better quirk.
It's part of the series is that, you can start off with a quirk that everyone else can laugh at. But if you know how to utilize it well, you could be in the top 10. You could be the number 2 hero. And that is a lot of fun stuff brought with Hawks there. So excellent choice for him. I'm going to choose the comic quirk that manga has. One of the Class 1B kids, where he just brings onomatopoeia into real life. It's so weird and out there, and yet it's nice to see it animated, because I was really questioning how they would do it. Because like in a manga, it just makes perfect sense. You just say sound effects, and that can happen in a way in art that you can't do as well in like a visual medium, an auditory medium. And yet it worked really well in the anime too. So that's my choice. Cause I thought about the lizard girl, but I'm like, I don't know, it kind of freaks me out too much.
Yeah. And I don't know why. I don't love mushrooms. And so the mushroom quirk, I just did not love that. I was like,
Yeah. Tokiyami did not deserve what happened to him.
Mm-mm. And then I'm glancing at other quirks too. Who's the guy with the mask? He was kind of like the emo. I'm trying to think.
The emo
I can't
one.
remember. He had silver hair. He kind of looked a little emo-y, but I can't think of what his quirk was.
Are you talking about Shoji from 1A?
No, I'll think about it later when it's 2 a.m.
You know what? Fair.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
All right. So moving on from there, we have, as we said before, the new ranking of the top 10 heroes. So what do we think about them like individually? And I'll list them off real quick. Just so we're all aware, we have number 10, we've got Ryukyu, who has dropped down from number 9. She helped out in the Shie Hasakai arc. Then we have Yoroi Musha, who's an old guy and does absolutely nothing. So that's my opinion on him. Then we have Wash, who is a human being in a washing machine, maybe, or was born as a washing machine, his poor mother. Then we have Kamui Woods, who we've seen at the very start of My Hero Academia, who's essentially Spider-Man, but with wood. Then we're introduced to Crust as well, who is kind of there. Seems like a positive guy. And we've got Mirko, our favorite bunny, who likes kicking things and beating people up. A lot of fun. We have Ed Shot. We saw him earlier in the Rescue Bakugo part, where he can kind of like manipulate his body kind of like paper and twist into things, a little Mr. Fantastic-y. Then we've got Best Genius, who is not able to attend because he's still suffering from the attack, from the attempt to rescue Bakugo, but has been brought up to number 3 anyways. Then, of course, we have Hawks and Endeavor. So your thoughts on these people?
I wish they would like have shown why the washing machine was the number 8. Like what? Like I want to see them in action. Is there?
Like,
was it in the manga?
No. I mean, like, no. I'm saying like there has to be a story there. You don't become the number 8 hero just because you're a washing machine.
Like, are you really good at rescuing? Like, okay, so I can see, for example, like whenever in South Carolina when we have hurricanes and we don't have access to running water, the Tide people will come and set up, like almost like camps, and people can bring their laundry to wash their clothes for like a relief thing, which is super needed. And you don't think about that when you don't have access to. So that's the only thing I can think of. Like, does she help people who may have lost water or like in poverty, wash your clothes and keep hygienic? Because I feel like that's very heroic, even though that's the only and that's me stretching it. I'm like, what the heck are you doing?
Yeah, so officially, Wash also doesn't have a known gender, by the way. So I think referred to as it multiple times. Clean Bubbler is the quirk. Allows Wash to create and control soapy water. Oh, actually, no, it says his. So maybe that's, who knows? Look in the data books. Maybe the information's there. From his body. The stream is strong enough to keep several people in the air. He can also use the quirk to generate large soap bubbles that he uses to envelop targets and make them float.
Okay. Well, they're not using the quirk like I just suggested. But the fact that Wash beat Fat Gum from top 10, I feel like Fat Gum should be in the top 10.
Yeah, that's disrespectful to Fat Gum.
Like
he deserves
the fact
better.
that the old guy and Wash are in top 10 and Fat Gum is not, I have a problem with it because I love Fat Gum.
Oh, and he's, by the way, looking at this ranking system, number 58.
Yeah. And granted, we don't know him at this point. So I'm kind of getting ahead, right?
No, we know Fat Gum.
We do know. Okay. We're just kidding. Oh, no, we do know.
We met him in the previous arc.
Yeah. Sorry. I'm getting like, everything gets jumbled when you.
I get it. That's kind of how I felt in the One Piece episode we just did the other day. It's like, that happened when and here and how many chapters did that take? Yeah, who knows?
Oh, yeah, you're right. We did meet Fat Gum because so how is he 58 after that epic fight scene with literally he was so crucial in taking down and getting Eri back? Yeah,
as mentioned by Hawks here, it's a popularity contest to an extent for why people are as high as they are. So maybe not everyone knows him as well as other heroes. That's why, like earlier, Aizawa is probably very low ranked because he activates. He normally operates, is what I was looking for, at night and isn't really flashy. Just kind of brings people down and doesn't make a big deal about it. So he's not high ranking in the public's eyes.
But if that's the case, I feel like Mike, the Mike professor should be kind of high. Or if it is a popularity contest, was Midnight, because everyone be loving her.
Yeah.
So I have questions. I would like to see the rubric for this ranking.
I think that's fair.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anyone else that pops out to you? You ready to move on?
I think I'm ready. I'm trying to think of any other people I love. I feel like Mount Lady should be numbered last, but she's just annoying. That's just my opinion, and we can move on.
Well, according to this, she's 23.
Well, she should be numbered last. Boo, Mount Lady.
Fair enough. All right. So, as mentioned, during the ranking ceremony, Hawks makes a special point of talking about how the approval of the people really defines a hero's ranking, amongst other factors that are brought up. So what are our thoughts on what he has to say there? Like, should that be a factor in what makes a hero popular?
I mean, Yes, and this is kind of even what I teach because I work at a trade college, and we teach the students soft skills. So you can be the best carpenter in the whole entire world. You could be a genius. You can be the best stone cutter in the whole entire world. But if you do not have the people skills to convey and to talk about like your work, no one's going to know it. You know what I mean? So you have to have a certain level of charisma to take you places, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so that's what we kind of like pride ourselves, because like you think of like these, and you should not judge people based on appearance. But if I'm trying to hire someone to build my house, and I see someone, even though it's not right, through bias, I see someone who has missing teeth and they're not dressed well and they talk in a very broken country accent versus someone who is dressed nice with a construction, like, polo, and is very well spoken, the skill level could be completely different, but I'm going to go with the well-spoken person because appearances, like how we eat food with our eyes before we actually eat it, and like we think something looks good, so we expect it to taste good. I feel like that's kind of also how we treat in the hero rankings, the heroes. So if we see the charisma, we expect them to look good, hero good, but at the end of the day, like they could have a poopy character. So it's very hard to have, that's just kind of like what I think of. And that's what we try and like, just teach our students when they go into society. Like you have to have good charisma, character, like, and do good work.
Yeah. Well, you raise a good point there, in that it's going to be way easier to give the accolades of someone who presents themselves well, who has a very public presence and can just meet with the people a lot better. Aizawa does good work, but he's not a people person. He's just kind of like, I'm here to do the job. I'm here for accolades. So if he complains about not being number one, which I don't think he ever would,
Nope.
it'd be because he's got an image problem. I mean, like I just happened to think about this while you were talking. We've got 12 apostles. Even when Judas goes away for what he did, there's another apostle brought up, Matthias, in Acts, and that's kind of the last we ever hear about someone like him. And then we've got like Simon the Zealot, Philip, Bartholomew, Thaddeus. Like they're kind of there. They did good things for the church, but compared to like your Peters and Jameses and Johns, like who are they? Well, we don't know because we don't get a lot of focus on them.
Mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
they work, but they're also not as publicized, as it were.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Which I don't think is their fault necessarily. Maybe they just had a really bad publicist. Maybe they should have written the gospel too.
Maybe they just weren't as good looking. It could happen.
It's also true. That fact is in a lot too. I mean, apparently people find Wash very attractive. Number 8.
I still don't understand, but it's just you don't want to judge people by their cover, but also you want to present your best self. Like whenever I go, like for example, when you go on a job interview, I'm not going in my leisure wear. I want to present my best self. So hopefully, not everyone has the same mindset or opinion on that matter, but I always try and, be hygienic and respectful everywhere I go.
Yeah, it's not like those are absolutes, but you can make judgment calls based on those things. If someone is showing up to a job interview and they haven't bathed in 2 weeks and they're wearing tattered clothing, that probably means that depending on where you're working at, you might not want them there. Or maybe it's a place where you're giving them an opportunity to work because of the situation that they're in. Right? I'm not expecting, a Fortune 500 company to do that versus, like, hey, here's a little startup business here. We need help. You look like you need help too. Let's work out and help out each other. That's a huge risk, but it's one you could take in that scenario that a Fortune 500 company wouldn't do in the same way. Speaking of taking chances, we had the characterization of Endeavor himself, our new number 1 hero. As we found out before through Todoroki's backstory, had beat him as a kid, beat his mother, caused terrible things. We get a little more into this as we see more about Shoto's brothers and sister. Yeah, just singular sister.
Did he hit his wife? Was that ever confirmed?
I think it's brought up. I don't think it was ever shown on screen, but it is heavily implied with how he treats her. Basically as like a baby factory.
Okay, yeah. I mean, definitely there is verbal abuse for sure, but like I didn't think I don't recall ever like feeling like he was physically abusive unless you count baby factory
definitely
like that could.
To her, it's never shown on screen, as from what I remember. He's definitely physically abusive to the kids and their training and everything.
Correct.
And that'll be a huge important part of something else down the way. We actually didn't talk about too much, but that character showed up here in these arcs.
Yes.
But yeah. So how do you think, how's this handled in the story? And do you think that you said it earlier, you think he's worthy of redemption? Why is that?
I feel like everyone is worthy of redemption, just because I truly believe that Jesus came for the lost and the broken, and obviously Endeavor is lost and broken. So for me, even if it's a fictional setting, like I'm always going to root for someone to have a heart change. And I never, even if, so Taylor, he laughs at me because he's like, you always root for the underdog. So someone could be a complete villain, but the villain usually has a sad backstory of why they are the way they are. You know what I mean? And usually I am a firm believer that, well, I know hurt people. And so because of that, I'm like, I have such a big empathetic heart. So there's been people who've done absolute wrong towards me, and I still want the best for them. But at the same time, I'm also petty. So it's one of those, like, I don't wish ill, but also you don't have to wish ill on someone, but you don't have to be their best friends either, if that makes sense. So
that makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah, you can forgive someone and you can choose not to have them in your life and have healthy boundaries. And so I feel like that's a big thing. And so as Endeavor is seeking atonement, everyone has a choice. Like, I don't want to give too far away, but he is making the change. And so he can do whatever he can do to try and like make it right on his end, but that's his kids and wife's choice if they want to forgive them or not, And so, but here's the thing, if they decide not to forgive them, that doesn't mean he's unredeemable. You know what I mean? Because you have to hold yourself accountable to your action, and you have to turn over a new leaf. So and you're not doing it to be forgiving, you're doing it because it's the right thing to do,
Yeah.
So for example, like if someone did wrong to me, well, if I did wrong to someone else and I apologize and they don't accept my apology, that's their choice. Just because I want to turn over a new leaf doesn't mean they have to forgive what the misconduct that I did to them. So I have a choice to like acknowledge I did bad and I want to be a better person. And so they get to choose whether they want to forgive me or not.
And that's basically what Natsu, Endeavor's one of his older sons, does. It's like, no, I'm not forgiving you. You crazy? You remember what you did to me?
And then, of course, you have the daughter, because usually, daughters want to be close, psychologically to their dad. Yep, and she wants to have a happy family, and so everyone is entitled to their own choice. So I do get sad. I'm like, come on, Natsu, but you can't, undo all the years of hurt. Like Natsu has to come to a place where he forgives his father, and it could take a while, or it could, never happen. And so I think Endeavor does a good job of accepting his children's, like, pretty much the results of it, like he is seeking atonement and he understands that he may not be forgiven by his kids. He's hopeful, but he's not saying, I'm a better person, forgive me now. Cause then I'm like, okay, no, sir, you didn't really change.
Yeah. And they're not just worried about themselves too. They're also concerned because, I think it's named in this arc where his son Toya died as a result of, him trying to bring his quirk out and making a new child, which is why he, married his wife Ray, because he figured her ice quirk and his fire quirk would cancel each other out and their children would come out fine. But spoilers, they never found the body. But there's a lot of angst that comes from that. Like a child was lost as a result of this. But yeah, as you were talking, I was just happened to thinking of my dad. Both of my parents are very forgiving people in different ways, but my dad is way more empathetic than people would expect of someone like him. He comes off, you think he's a very angry person, but he's a lovable guy, and he loves people, and he forgives people so easily. He's willing to see the best in people. In fact, one of the assistant coaches he worked with once said, Chip, Satan himself came into that door right now, you'd say, oh, he's a good dude. He's a good dude. He made some mistakes, but he's a good dude. Because like obviously playing it up for laughs because that's just my dad. It's like, let me forgive this person. They screwed up. Then that doesn't mean he's a pushover. Doesn't mean he's going to be like, okay, let's just get back in here. I forgive you completely, and I'm going to forget everything you've done, which, by the way, is not a biblical principle like some people like to imagine it is. But no, it's like we are called to forgive. That does not mean we forget. That does not mean we just
ignore. Like, just because you forgive someone doesn't mean you ignore everything either.
I think a huge part of this is the premise of trust but verify. Someone comes to me for forgiveness because of something they did to me or something they did to someone else. I'm forgiving them, but I'm also going to remember, okay, they did this. They can do it again. I don't hold it over them. I don't start a witch hunt or anything, but I remember, they stole from me. I probably shouldn't leave things lying around while they're around, or they said this behind my back. But I made her make sure that they're not saying it again. Because if that happens, and they obviously haven't learned from the last time, and they just want things to go back to normal instead of actually wanting forgiveness. And Endeavor is someone who actually wants forgiveness. He knows he's screwed up immensely, and he knows it's not going to be easy to get there. So that's why I really appreciate what Horikoshi does with this character, because that's a hard call to make, to realize that you're the bad guy.
Mm-hmm. And then do we know, I can't remember, so he starts realizing what he does. Was there like an actual turning point, that a causative event where he realized it? I think he kind of like saw it a little bit when him and All Might talked in the hallway for a second, right? I think that was like the turning. Mm-hmm.
But it was really like talking with Hawks and then realizing that, hey, like, being the number one hero comes with a lot of responsibility, and I'm someone who screwed up my responsibility immensely. I should probably do something about that and start making amends. Mm-hmm. Like, this means something, so let me try and fix what I can.
I can't imagine having the weight of responsibility of being like a big old hero. Everyone watching you.
Yeah, that's a lot, but I'm glad there are people out there who do.
Right. If I had powers, I would be like the best accountant or something. Like, I don't want to be a hero. Like, let me be a firefighter or something. Like, I would want a civilian hero job, not like the hero.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I'd like to be a vigilante day one, depending on the power set. All right. So moving over to the joint training arc, a major criticism of it is that it slows the story down too much and focuses on fights that don't matter. We kind of talked a little bit on this. Do you have anything you want to add to that idea?
Nope, just agree. I zoned out. I didn't care enough.
Yes, I'll agree as well. Like, as entertaining as parts of it are, reading this week to week was a slog. And there was some cool fights happening, some cool art. I mean, we get a great reveal of, Deku finding the other powers of one for all. I keep making that mistake. English is hard.
It is.
But it comes at the cost of, slow pacing and characters I couldn't care less about. So is it the most engaging part of My Hero Academia? Absolutely not. It's probably the one I'm going to rank lowest out of everything that came before. But it's still worth something. Things do still happen that, if they didn't happen here, would affect the story to come. So, yeah, I think most of the complaints come from people who are having to read it week by week, which I definitely understand. I know some people in the anime were coming up made similar complaints, but it was way better because they got multiple chapters in an episode.
Right. Well, and then that way, if you wait like me for the English dub, you could cook dinner or something while it plays in the background.
Yeah. So speaking of something mentioned earlier, we have the new fact now that Izuku can use other quirks from former users of One for All, which kind of becomes a little bit of a MacGuffin in the series, kind of a quest of him figuring out who these people are and what they can do so that he can unlock their quirks. And the quirk he unlocks here in the battle is Black Whip, used by one of the former users of One for All. I think his name is Banjo.
But it's not like the most recent one, though, in the shadows. Yes. It's like way back there, which just raises questions of why that one.
Mm-hmm. So, like, how do you think about how this revelation was handled in the story, and do you think it was executed well?
I mean, they were confused, which made sense because it's something new. But I'm like, you talking about the two people who are alive had no idea about this? So, like, the Gran Torino had no idea? Like,
well, that's because it never came out like this before. It's only ever been the super strength and enhanced abilities. It's not the other quirks. Izuku's the first person to bring the other quirks into the equation.
And then, like, just a lot of questions. Is it because he was quirkless? Maybe he just had, stronger willpower. So a lot of questions at this point, not a lot of answers. But like I said, I'm just like, great, he's going to be unstoppable. Boo. No one likes that.
Yeah, and that was a lot of people's initial reactions. Be like, ugh, you mean he's getting more quirks? He's going to be that much more overpowered? One for All is already so overpowered.
Mm-hmm.
But trust the system.
He still hasn't even mastered his other One for All. Like, what the heck?
Yeah. Trust the system. We're going to learn more about the quirks in other arcs, and they're not as OP as you're expecting. This isn't some isekai where he, shows up first day and he's got cheat abilities and he can kill everyone he wants and get all the girls. He's going to have to earn what he gets along the way, and I appreciate that immensely. But it was one of those. As I was reading it, it's like, no way, and then it happened.
I was like,
yes.
I was like, we have other things to do besides adding new quirks, okay? Like, there's a whole list of things we have to do. Like, why are you doing this to us?
Well, do you have anything else you'd like to add before we start wrapping things up?
No. I mean, if you guys made it this far, keep on watching it. It slowed down a little bit, but it will pick back up. Maybe I will be inspired too, because I bet you I'm on the next episode and we're getting close to what I've already watched. So I should probably pick it back up.
There you go. A stellar recommendation there. Yeah. So, guys, for our Patreon and Captivate supporters, we have a special bonus question. We're going to be asking each other if we had to trade one hero from Class 1A to Class 1B, and vice versa, but also without making that person Mineta the easy answer to the question.
We always hate on Mineta.
Which two would we swap and why? So if you're interested in that, you want to throw a little extra money our way to hear these bonus questions we do, you can join us on Patreon or get a little extra money through Captivate. But as far as rating and reviewing
goes, I just thought of the best answer, so you guys better sign up.
I'm ready to hear it. Rating and reviewing for these arcs, both arcs individually, what do you give them out of 10?
I would say a 6, because honestly, I didn't remember them until we started talking about them.
Okay. 6 for both of them?
6 for the training together, 7 for the other one.
Okay. Yeah. I'm going to give the Pro Hero arc an 8. I think it's really great in establishing Endeavor's character now, introducing us to Hawks and like a new threat with the Nomu. Does a really good job there of, some Todoroki family shenanigans. It's fun. But as far as the joint, training arc goes, it's like a 4. I'm so ready with it to be done. There's some cool things that happen inside of it, but it's not enough to keep me entertained the entire time. So at the end of the day, I'm just ready to move on with my life. So do you have any recommendations you'd like to offer the audience?
What are we going to recommend? I guess if you do want to see someone who gets these crazy cheat skills and just dominate the whole life, like we talked about not liking, you can watch Solo Leveling, because that's exactly what happens.
I'd say don't let TJ hear that, but he doesn't listen to these episodes. He got very upset when I gave the whole series a 7 out of 10 because of
Solo
stuff
Leveling.
Like that. Yeah.
Oh, this series or Solo Leveling series?
Solo Leveling, which I read the whole thing.
I'm
which
just kind of like, all right, he's gonna just be a bad booty now. Let's just kill everything.
Sun Kung-woo's the only person who matters in a series, and that's it.
Yep. So I'm like, oh, I wonder how this will end. Oh, he's gonna defeat the boss? Shocker. So yeah, you can go watch that, I guess.
It is fun. Don't hear us say we hate the show or anything.
No, it's quite entertaining. It's good, but he's gonna win.
Yeah, it's not exactly Shakespearean at any point in time.
Yeah, but go watch it. There's some twists and stuff you're not going to see coming.
Yeah, I'm going to recommend another podcast. Huge snafu to do on a podcast. Recommend another podcast, but 372 pages will never get back. It's run by Mike Nelson of Mystery Science Theater 3000 and Connor Listoka, who has helped him with riff tracks. And they just go through different books that they're not expecting to like. And then they just start like, what's the word I want to say here? Just like editorializing in a good way and judging the books in a good way of like giving pointers to how they could be better. It's such a fun time, guys. You really can't go wrong with that. 372 pages will never get back. So, guys, thank you for all that you do. Please, if you get a chance, leave a 5-star review in your podcasting platform of choice. Help us with the ratings, find more people. If you think our show's good, send us a rating and let us know too. Like, let us know you sent a 5-star review. We'll be willing to read it on a show. Maybe we'll have multiple people do it because we didn't coordinate, and you'll get to hear your voice multiple times, your name multiple times over. As well, you can send us episode topic ideas at systematicecology@gmail.com. Anything else you want to throw our way? I'd like to shout out some supporters. Thank you, Aaron Hardy, Daniel Sigmund, Trip Fuller, and James Barrett. You guys are the best. But remember, we're all a chosen people, a geekdom of priests.
We interrupt our regularly scheduled podcasting for an important message. My name is Tejas. I come to you today to inform you that for as little as $0.00 a week, you could in fact help us by joining our Discord channel. We'd love to talk to you guys there. There's a ton you can do on Discord. You can hang out with us, talk directly to all of the hosts, ask us questions, get more involved in our community, and join in future watch sessions. We like to hop in a voice channel and stream something and watch it that way. It's a really cool way to, get that sitting on the couch experience from home and, living a couple 100 miles away from each other. It is my favorite thing. I would really appreciate it if some of you joined so we could hang out some more. Thanks. And back to your regularly scheduled podcast programming.
Be sure to check out other Anazal Ministry Podcast AMP Network shows. You can see the whole network in a single feed if you're on Spotify, or you could go to Apple Podcasts and find the Anazal Ministries Network podcast, the AMP Network. Yeah, there's just a network on Apple. You can follow the whole thing. You'll get shows like The Homily, where Pastor Will goes through his homily messages. It's literally just Pastor Will's sermons, guys. It's great. You also get access to the Whole Church podcast, where TJ and myself interview leaders from across different denominations and backgrounds to work towards a more full church unity. You can see My Seminary Life, where Brandon Knight discusses his experiences at seminary and then discusses seminary topics, so anyone can have access to knowledge available to seminary students. You also can see Let Nothing Move You over there, where Christian Ashley goes through the Bible in a Bible study type fashion and explains the whole biblical narrative. I also have a show on there, The Dummy for Theology, where we discuss various theological topics in an attempt to show every side of the discussions, leaving you with more questions than answers. There's also The Bible After Hours, where the foul-mouthed preacher goes through the Bible from a more progressive view to challenge the status quo of the modern church. Finally, you can hear The Clydes, where Taylor and Elizabeth Clyde go through weekly discussions in a devotional conversational style method to help us all get closer to one another and to God.